Hello, people of the internet. Welcome to episode 79 of Nintendo Noise, Flip Screen Games' weekly Nintendo podcast. This week, I'm your host, Max Wright, and I'm joined today by my very good friends and co-hosts, Stephen Radford.
Hello, hello.
And Sierra.
Goodbye, goodbye.
Feels weird not giving you a second name, but also don't want to dox anyone on the internet, so, you know.
This is Miss Sierra Plus Ultra, how dare you?
That's it. Sorry, Sierra Plus Ultra. There we
That's
go.
okay.
I knew it was something, but I couldn't be bothered to go into Twitter and type S-I-E. So many letters. It's so long. But I do respect you as a person, despite that. We've got a big show today. Lots to talk about, really. We're going to start by just touching on something. We're not going to talk too much about this or what's involved. So if you are worried about the Tears of the Kingdom spoilers or leaks or anything like that, don't worry. We're not going to go into any details. I've personally not looked at it. I don't know about you guys, but you don't have to go away. So for those that don't know, the art book for Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which is coming with the collector's edition of the game, has leaked in some form, whether it's the full book or just pages of the book. I'm not sure.
It's the full book. So I've looked
book.
at it because I didn't really care.
Oh,
and yeah, someone got a physical copy of it and took photos of every single page and posted it online. So I've seen some things. I don't really mind all that much. There's some good stuff in there. Made me more excited for the game more than anything.
Is it high quality photo work, or is it the classic leak photo work where someone's taking it on like their iPhone 2 and it's shaky?
Yeah, they're pretty good pictures. Like you can discern quite a lot from them, I think. And there's definitely some spoilers in there that if you're sensitive to spoilers, you want to kind of avoid it and not look at it, because there's some items in there that will definitely play a part in the story or gameplay. So if you're sensitive to that, then yeah, avoid it. But I didn't really care because I'm so excited about the game anyway.
I might take a look at this then if it's not like anything major. I assume it's just gonna be like
there's like certain enemies,
some new characters,
and there's some new items that Link will acquire, things like that. But there's nothing major. There's nothing major in there.
Are there any words, or is it just pictures? Because I know that a lot of the art books before have had like, where it's like concept art. It might be the Japanese text has then been overlaid with English text, so you sort of know what you're looking at. But
from what I saw, it was just art that they posted the pictures of. But there may be the pictures of the words on there. I glimpsed at it and I was like, oh cool, I want to see what's there, and then like close the page. But yeah, might want to put some like mute filters on Twitter or whatever if you're very sensitive.
I don't know if I want to see it because like I'm excited. I don't think any spoilers gonna like ruin that. But I also do like to generally go into things as spoiler free as possible. Internet and all.
Cool. Yeah, I generally try and avoid spoilers for most things, unless it's like a Pokemon game, and I would generally be searching hourly for those Pokemon that are like leaking and coming out, because I just sort of want to see them. Unfortunately, the last couple of games that hasn't done a lot for me. I've been like, oh, okay, fine. But yeah, it's a shame this is leaked, because I'm sure, as we know, Nintendo very much kept the game quite close to their chest. We've said on the show a few times, like, when are they going to actually show us some details or go into any, show us any proper gameplay or talk about what's going on in the game, but they still haven't.
When do you think that's going to be? I think that's probably going to be April at this point. There will be a few weeks up to launch, and then it'll be, here's the reveal of that special edition console, which seems to have a lot of truth in it, because there was a lot of symbols that were in the art book on that console. And I could see that April's probably going to be the time they do it. That seems to be around when they do it. It's usually like 3-4 weeks ahead of launch they'll do like events.
Yeah, I think so. Like a deep dive. I think that if people have got to play this game first as well, haven't they? Like we're gonna have previews, we're gonna have things like that. But I am worried that Pete might be right, or every day of my life, but specifically with this, that they're gonna really hold back and that we're really not gonna see anything. Whereas I've been pretty adamant they're gonna do like a big, not reveal, but like a big, this is what you're doing in the game. Oh, there's dungeons. Oh, there's these bosses and stuff like that. What these two versions of Link seem to be, whether you can travel backwards and forwards in time as it seems to be, whatever it is that's going on.
I think they maybe just let the press deal with that instead. So they just go, here you go, IGN, here's a copy of the game. You can talk about the first 10 hours of the game, but that's all you're allowed to talk about up until this point. And then that will give us a good glimpse of what the gameplay's like, what the dungeons are like, if there are like a return to big dungeons rather than the shrines. Because I think in all the footage we've seen, I've not seen any kind of small shrines that they've shown up.
Or nothing that would appear to be the inside of the shrines. But they had they all looked very similar inside. We've not seen any of that. Yeah, I think we're going to see, whenever you see people on Twitter who are like, hoo, just on the train to London, it's just like all of the UK, um,
Yeah, the UK
the
press hadn't mentioned
journalists,
Nintendo
the
UK. Yeah.
UK journalists who are like, oh, we're going down to London, yada yada, and it's always like we're going to play. They're going to play the next big game, and I think that's going to be Zelda. So yeah, that could be a few weeks away. I'm probably going to look at these now that you said there's not much in there. Just sort of maybe have a look. I'm probably hopefully not going to regret it, but we'll see. Yeah. I can't think of a good segue, but with the signaling of a new game, it's awful. So today, some news came out where Brad, I actually can't remember the chap's name. Uh, Brad Smith, very easy name to remember. Who I believe works for
Yeah, he's the
Microsoft. He's sort
vice
of
chair and president of Microsoft.
Is that the new? Is that Bill Gates' old job?
Yes, he took Bill Gates' old job
So
on
he's
the
the guy.
board. Yeah,
Okay,
he's the
cool.
president of Microsoft.
So the guy at Microsoft tweeted that they're signing a contract. They've signed the contract that's going to allow or commit them to releasing Call of Duty on Nintendo Switch. We had this news earlier in the year, or was it maybe it was the end of last year, where during all these proceedings with Microsoft trying to justify this Activision purchase and prove that they're not a monopoly, they tried to say that, look, we're committing to bringing we're committed to bring Call of Duty to Switch, PS5 or PlayStation, and also to PC and on Steam, just to sort of be like, look, we are going to share. And I remember at the time having a conversation with a friend of mine who was saying about how they've signed this contract. And I said, well, they've not signed anything. It's just they've
Just a
committed to it.
tweet, yeah.
That's changed now. It's now changed. They have signed a binding 10-year legal agreement to bring Call of Duty to Nintendo players. It will release the same day as Xbox with full feature and content parity, which is worrying considering the power of the Switch, but still. So that Nintendo fans can experience Call of Duty just as Xbox and PlayStation gamers enjoy Call of Duty.
They've not mentioned Switch at all, which I think is really interesting. And we have no idea when this 10-year contract starts. So we know from a leak that happened over at Activision that a new Call of Duty game is planned for 2023. Now, presumably that game's not going to run on the Switch, and they've not even started on a port for the Switch. So whether they ignore that one and move on from there, and it's from 2024 onwards, and that's where the agreement begins, or we get a cloud version. And I could easily see that we get a cloud version of all of these games, that they just bring them over and it's like, yep, it's on Switch, it's a cloud version.
Yeah.
Now, is important that this statement came out today. And I think there's two statements really. There's like the official one that's in the image, and then Brad did a secondary one where it speaks about bringing Xbox games to Nintendo gamers. And I think there's a little bit of confusion as to whether this is just Call of Duty or whether this is Call of Duty and Xbox games, or whether he means Xbox games are going to be Call of Duty. Call of Duty is going to be an Xbox game, so it's kind of one and the same. We don't know what's obviously on that binding agreement. But this came out today ahead of Microsoft being pulled in front of the EU. So we'll probably have more about that on the Flip Screen Games podcast later this week.
I think it's interesting. Last week, I think there was something that was from one of these hearings where they after the Nintendo Direct, and they were talking about Game Boy Advance games and Game Boy games. There was a statement that Nintendo will be releasing these. Nintendo releases these games and has this online service on Nintendo Switch and redacted. So there's clearly someone's had to go up there and say, oh, and whatever we're working on next, but they've not been able to actually say what that is, and that's come out as redacted. So it could very well be that Microsoft is more aware of what Nintendo have going on next, or that everyone in that room has more idea of what Nintendo's going on next, and that could be how this deal's come about, or part of this deal is they've said, look, maybe we can't start with the Switch, but we know you've got something coming out that maybe is more capable to handle it. Let's hold off till that releases, and then day and date, you get Call of Duty every year on this system for the next 10 years, which is possibly going to be even into the next generation at this rate.
Yeah, I think they were careful to just broadly say Call of Duty games generally, because like the first thing that came to mind was like I saw that and I was like, all right, so maybe not even any of the newer titles. Maybe this is like a plan for the future, or or they just port older Call of Duty games. Like, see, we said we would bring Call of Duty over.
Yeah, it does say to bring Call of Duty to Nintendo players the same day as Xbox, with feature blah blah blah. So what they could end up doing is re-releasing some of the old games in like fantastic quality on, like, let's say they do like a remaster of Modern Warfare 3,
When
and
you get the
that's
original Modern Warfare 3 on
that's
Switch
what I'm
instead.
saying. Yeah, yeah. So they get like this whole new, they get Metroid Prime remasters, and we get the original Metroid Prime, that kind of thing, where it's still exactly the same as it was. But hey,
I
it's
could see
feature
that.
and content parity.
But I could also see that the next Nintendo console is powerful enough to run these games, and that
Hmm.
it's finally hitting, say, similar power levels of the Steam Deck, which is like PS4, like original Xbox One levels of power. Um, but it's very interesting, and I could also see that this is maybe a way for Microsoft to bring Game Pass to the Switch as well
Yeah,
at some point.
something we've been discussing for
Um,
years now at this point, haven't we?
yeah,
Really.
because I could see them just saying, right, okay, well, we'll bring it over, and we could either sell them to you, or we could just have like a subscription-based service that allows you to cloud stream them, and that like opens up a whole new level of opportunity for Nintendo Switch gamers to play potentially all of these games that are on Xbox Game Pass. And I could see Nintendo saying that you get that if you subscribe to Nintendo Switch Online and the what's it called, the booster pass or the expansion pack, or whatever it's called, and maybe you get like access to Xbox Game Pass as part of that, and they do like a bit of a tie-in.
Yeah, I think we've been theorizing about this for a while. I think it was back when they first brought about Xbox started bringing Xbox games to the Switch, and you could log into your Xbox account for things like Minecraft or Ori
Minecraft
with
works really well
Blind
actually,
Forest.
yeah. Because
Yeah,
you see you log in, you get all of your Xbox friends, you can like just type in the username and team up with them. Um, Microsoft seems to be getting a lot out of the deal if that's the case, and Nintendo gets what, Call of Duty. That's all the only thing they've really committed to bringing, and I guess that's great for them because they've not had Call of Duty on their consoles for many years at this point. I think there's not been a Call of Duty released on the Wii U or the Switch at this.
there
Correct me if
was
I'm
one on the
wrong.
Wii U. I think it was Ghosts was on the Wii U, or
So
one of
that's
those.
so that's coming up to 10 years now that they've not
Oh
had
yeah,
a Call of Duty game on any of their.
Ghosts and Black Ops 2. So Black Ops 2 came out in 2012. So yeah, it came out on the Wii U in 2012.
Yeah, so we've
So
got
yeah, we're at 11
11
years.
years with no Call of Duty, which is the best-selling video game franchise. So it's a lucrative deal for both of them, but it feels like Microsoft's
Hmm.
getting a lot more out of it. Not only do they get more people to sell their games to, they're potentially using this as ammunition against Sony and Nintendo, kind of teaming up with them to kind of take Sony down in their battle with the EU, the CMA, and the FTC. So it feels like it's kind of one-sided, towards Microsoft, really, because it's a commitment to bring Call of Duty, but who knows how many games they're going to release in the next 10 years. Microsoft might
Yeah.
put the brakes on with Call of Duty and say we're only going to release one game every 3 years, kind of thing.
And just support them like as a live service game, I
Hmm.
guess. Yeah, that would make sense. However, it's not okay. So let's say it's not just Call of Duty games; it's more Xbox games. Do we think it's going to be things like they're going to do pared down, or maybe even cloud versions of things like Forza, Halo, Gears of War, etc.? Or do you think more realistically it'll be things like, they can put Rare Replay on the Switch, and all of those old games that were on N64 are now back on the Switch, and maybe that's a part of the N64 Online, uh, or things like Hi-Fi Rush that came out that you said runs flawlessly on Steam Deck. Could that be made to work
That
very
could
well on Switch
easily
because
run
it's
on
sort of
Switch
an
at like 30
easier? You're
FPS.
muted
Yeah. Sorry, my
and
computer's
muted again. Yeah,
yeah, my computer's glitching out. But
there we go.
that could easily run on Switch at 30 FPS, Hi-Fi Rush, and I feel
Yeah,
like they've got a bunch of historic games in their back catalog as well that they could easily port over. And if they don't want to port them over, they can just allow you to play cloud games. Um, I know, Max, you've got the list of like Xbox Game Studio games here already on Switch, and it's a pretty comprehensive list. But it looks, I didn't even realize South Park was one of them.
yeah. Both the South Park games they're made by Obsidian, so that's owned by Microsoft. Now I'll run through the list quickly just while we're on it. So Cuphead, Ori and the Blind Forest, and Will of the Wisps, Skyrim, which does count, GoldenEye, Banjo Kazooie, both of them for the N64. So there could be more of those. Minecraft, The Outer Worlds, South Park: Stick of Truth, South Park: Fractured But Whole, and I see you've added on here. One of you's added Zelda: Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, which is Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom is a Microsoft game now, so that's good. And then if we then think about the wider, if they were to get Activision and they were committing to Xbox games, and Activision will be under that umbrella. We've already got Overwatch, Diablo 3, Crash, and Spyro. There could also be things like what's the one I'm thinking of? There could be like Diablo 4. Maybe they put Diablo Immortal on the Switch because maybe it's easier to run. Hearthstone maybe comes over. Other things that Blizzard are working on. So that's a pretty. That is, I was surprised by how many Xbox games are already on Switch. Some of them have obviously been, as Microsoft been picking up these studios, things like The Outer Worlds, South Park, have all sort of, and Skyrim have all sort of come under that umbrella. But Cuphead and Ori and Banjo-Kazooie, GoldenEye, they're all directly they are Microsoft-owned games that they have made the decision to port to Switch, and some of them aren't even on PlayStation. You can't think you can play any of those on PlayStation actually. Cuphead maybe, yeah, but the others I'm pretty sure you can't. So from those games that aren't sorry, start again. The Xbox games that aren't on that list, are there any that you would want to see? Are there any games that you like playing on Xbox or on Game Pass that you think, other than Half-Life Rush, would work very well on Switch?
Specifically Xbox-owned studio ones, like first-party titles, do you mean?
Yeah, because otherwise, why would they have a say in it?
Mm-hmm.
Flight Simulator is not on the Switch, right?
No,
it's not. The Switch would probably melt. I'd imagine. We'd probably just get Pilot Wings 2, and
you
they'd
could
call it
stream
Microsoft
that
Flight
in though.
Simulator.
Like you could stream that, I think.
Oh yeah, probably. Oh yeah, I guess if they do end up doing just streamed games,
I think it's got to be. Like, there's no way that Call of Duty 2023 is coming to Switch this year and it's ready to go and it's running natively on the current hardware. Either this is an agreement for a future console, or we've got to assume that they're streaming stuff. Like, if we're saying in an ideal world we'd love it to run, like, yeah, Flight Simulator would be great. I'd love Forza on there as well, because I feel like there's no real racing arcade game other than Mario Kart. I guess maybe Burnout's on there now, and Need for Speed. But I think Forza Horizon for me is the S rank. It's the best of the best in terms of arcade racing games, and I'd love to see that come over. Halo would be fun as well.
Yeah, I think the Master Chief Collection would be, if it had to be any of them, it would be that one.
Yeah, Master Chief Collection makes so much sense as well, because they're older games, so they should really be able to port those over, even if they run a little bit worse.
Also, I feel like that's the one that people still play.
Yes,
I know Infinite's the newer one, but I feel like that's the one that it's died a little bit, and that's why they had to do some reshuffling, as far as I know, at 343 to recommit to Halo in various ways. So, I think that's a pretty safe bet for them.
I'd like to see.
I just hope. Oh, go on.
I'd like to see stuff like Age of Empires come over as well. They've just brought that to Xbox. I think that would be a really good fit on Switch, because you'll be able to play that handheld. We've got Outer Worlds on the list, and we know that they're working on a follow-up to that. So I'd like to see that come over. I think the rest of Rare Replay would be great. We don't have Perfect Dark at the moment. I feel like Perfect Dark would be good. Jet Force Gemini would be great.
But I do think a lot of these maybe it'll be a part, like the same way that GoldenEye did, where when they release GameCube games, they'll put some of these games on there, or maybe they'll just release them as N64 games, because that's a lot easier. It's a less bitter pill for Nintendo to swallow if they can say, look, we're going to re-release these games, but you can have your bigger cut by releasing them in that way. And it's probably just the cheapest way for them to keep the regulations people off their back. You said you were going to do this, like, yeah, cool, have Battletoads, yeah, sure. Yeah, so I think that's a pretty massive deal if it does come through. I think we're going to be waiting a little while for anything further on this, because, like you say, this has come out just before being pulled in front of the EU, and I think that this is going to be purely for that purpose for now, and they're probably not going to have to commit on this for a little while.
Well, I don't know when we'll see the fruits of their labour, because obviously they've got no say in Activision at the moment and the release schedule for Call of Duty. if this deal doesn't close until later this year, the Call of Duty, they've obviously got no say in what's coming out this year. Who knows what they're gonna do when they do get hold of the ropes and just like, yep, okay, right, we're gonna cancel X, Y, and Z project and funnel resources from here to there. I'm curious, Max. There's one game particularly. I'm looking at the Activision games. And there's one game in particular that I could easily see Microsoft wanting for themselves, but also I'd love to play on a handheld and would like to see it come to Switch.
Pentiment.
Pentiment's like a Microsoft game, but I'm talking about an Activision game.
Oh, Activision. I'm going to think of it. Are we okay? Is it a Blizzard game?
No.
Cool.
It's a game near and dear to your heart, I think.
Sekiro?
Yeah. I think that would be so cool to come over.
I could see it. It makes my Steam Deck scream when I've played it on there. Yeah, I could see that working quite well. I could see it being very, 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 very pared down. I'd be into it. I'd definitely be into that. Yeah, I forgot that's even. I always forget that's Activision too.
Yeah, it's weird. It's so weird.
Yeah, that's not two names you'd put together.
No.
That and Tony Hawk's, I think, needs to come over as well. Like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2.
Is that not on Switch?
It may well be already. Yeah, it is on Switch already. Yeah. Where was it on your list then, Max?
That's on me putting together bad lists, forgetting. I forgot Crash and Spyro, so I'm just that guy, and I just obviously half-assed this whole thing.
They should make more Tony Hawk's games, though. They're really good games.
Yeah,
they've made 4, right? Something like that.
5 plus like 1 and 2 remade. So plus then like all of the Underground games as well. So they've made quite a lot of Tony Hawk's games, but they're still great. And EA's taking their time with the Skate reboot, so it'd be nice to have something else.
Easy wins, really, aren't they?
You'd think they would be, right, because they've already got the engine for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. It's then just bringing over the maps from 3 and 4, which are the ones people would like, and just bring over a playlist of music, and away you go. I don't understand why they didn't. It made no sense to me, but I guess it didn't sell as much as Call of Duty sells, so they kind of funnel their resources into that instead.
Yeah. Well, maybe Tony Hawk will have to have a say in it. Maybe if he's a big Nintendo fan, or if he's he'll have to have a say and see what he can do. Speaking of absolute legends, let's get into some housekeeping and talk about our Patreon producers for the month of February. Different list this month or this week. We've got Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valens, Christopher Valens, Earth Visitor, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, aka Asobi, Wakahula, Snack Hugo or Snack Hugo?
Snack Hugo, that's Said.
Snack Hugo, and Ty the Dude. Sorry for butchering everyone's names one by one. This is the first time I've read the list out, I'm pretty sure. Thank you all for your support. There's another bit that Pete does here about, like, if you're listening and you're enjoying it, go to the Patreon,
you've got to go check out patreon.com/flipscreengames so you can get our exclusive Patreon podcast, One More Thing. We'll be putting some extra pieces up on there soon. If you didn't check out our Discord as well, go check that out. And you can find us everywhere at flipscreen.games.
Fantastic baton pass there, Steve. Back to Max in the studio for our next headline. This one's come around sort of in the last couple of hours, really. Pokemon have announced they are streaming a Pokemon Presents next week. That's the Pokemon sort of specific Nintendo Direct branding. Pokemon Presents. They've said that tune into our official YouTube channel at 2 p.m. GMT. Oh, it's a nicely timed one for us. On February the 27th, that's 2023, for about 20 minutes of exciting Pokemon news in celebration of Pokemon Day 2023. So I think we were expecting this. We were expecting like them to do a big Pokemon stream. I think they do one every year at least. Pokemon Presents. This is earlier than usual, though, as far as I know. I feel like it's usually a little bit like...
Isn't Pokemon Day always February 27th?
Oh, yeah, Pokemon Day is, but I don't know if they always do a stream for it, do they?
Yeah, I think they have always done a stream on it.
Recent years, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
I always think of the Pokemon Directs as like oh, E3's coming up, and they're
They
going to do
do
that
those as
before they
well.
move
Like
into
they'll do a
E3.
special
Okay.
one as well, and sometimes they remember that weird press conference they did as well at one point, and it was
Oh
very
yeah.
strange. Like
Well, that's the
just
weird press conference where they announced Detective
Pokemon,
Pikachu 2 as well, I
yes,
think.
and Let's Go,
Yes,
Pikachu and
yeah.
Eevee, and Detective Pikachu is nowhere to be seen on Switch.
Well, yeah. Well, that sort of gets us into what we want to talk about then. What could they possibly have to show in this Pokemon Presents? So I
There's
know that we
two things that I want to see, and then I'm going to
yeah.
shut up and let Sierra talk because I know nothing about Pokemon. I want them to apologize for the mess that was Scarlet and Violet, and say that there's going to be no more Pokemon games coming this year, so I can win that prediction and get one on the board. That's all I want. That and where the hell's Pokemon Sleep? That's what I want to know. Those
Oh
two
God,
things.
yeah. I've been restless. I've been tossing and turning for years in
Yeah,
my
I've not been
bed.
able to sleep. I need
Desperate.
Snorlax to
No.
help me out.
I am shattered every day of my life. Just like, please, please, Nintendo, please, Pokemon Company, release Pokemon Sleep. Yeah, I agree with you. I think maybe if not an apology, at least like another formal acknowledgement of like, look, we know the games didn't release in a great state. We're sorry about that. I guess that is technically an apology. Here's what we're going to do, because I think the latest patch that came out had a lot of bug fixes, didn't have any performance fixes. So if they were to like specifically state, we're fixing X, Y, Z, that's due here. There's also like a free little bit of DLC to like make up for it kind of thing. However, I'm also fully expecting them to completely just never touch on that at all and to just go, hey, that game that you all love and there's no problems with? Here's DLC you can buy now. Pay another $40 now and get a season pass for this game that's doesn't work very well.
Oh, you think there'll be DLC? What do you think, Sarah? Do you think there was get DLC for
I
Scarlet and
think
Violet?
we are so getting DLC. We got DLC for Sword and Shield. It was very popular. I think that they're just gonna replicate that forever. So, I don't imagine what it could be. A lot of people were saying that because of the proximity to like France, we might get like a Kalos region DLC. I don't know. They've never really gone back to regions outside of remakes, and I guess now Legends Arceus.
And in Gold and Silver.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we're gonna get DLC. What it could be, I don't know, because I feel like the post game has so much, so it's hard to see how they're going to like add on to that.
Yeah, I think the Sword and Shield one added sort of the first actual open area with actual open towns and stuff, but Scarlet
Mhm.
and Violet kind of does that now. Added some new legendaries in. And as far as I know, there is no like mythical Pokemon in this game yet, Scarlet and Violet, and that usually gets a lot of the time the mythical gets added later in. I think it happened in Sun and Moon. They added that the the anime cat that the furries wanted to shag, and they added in the most recent one they added that really long-legged, round-headed dude. Not me,
Oh
a
yeah.
different dude. Caldea, Claudio, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't remember its name. It just
he
had like
rode
a
the
massive
horses.
dome. Yeah.
Yeah, he rode the horse. He had those big long legs for riding
Giant
the horses. Like
brain.
it's like the opposite of
Mhm.
Lord Farquaad. Um, so, yes, Sierra, why don't you talk more about what you want to see and what you think you're going to see?
I would love to see them like come out with new games for like titles like the Mystery Dungeon series. Maybe like I mean, listen, we all know I'm a huge Gale of Darkness, like Pokemon Coliseum enjoyer. Like, I just would love to see content either that is like those games remastered, or brought over to online, or just more like straying from the path of like the typical Pokemon game. Some people are saying like, oh, they're gonna announce a new Legends game, and I was like, hold
I
on,
could see,
hold on.
genuine. I could see that. Like, I
You
wonder
think
if this.
so?
Great, they're
I think
coming
it's
out.
so
I
soon.
know, but I maybe not a new Legends game, but maybe like another Chibi remake because what's that studio been doing? I think it's Studio
Yeah.
Timmy, right? What have they been up to while
Right.
Game Freak's been cooking up two games? One thing I really could see happening is all of the classic Pokemon games come to
Beat me
Nintendo
to it.
Switch Online.
Beat me
Um,
to it.
if we
Because it
obviously
was a weird
know,
omission. Weird
sorry.
omission from the last
Yeah,
direct. It
it
was a
was.
weird
We know
omission from the
trading
last
card
direct.
games coming, and I could see them
Yeah.
easily shadow dropping that. Plus, here's Pokemon Red and Blue. Go back and play the
That would be
original.
Yeah.
wild to me because they always hold those titles so close to their chest. Like, for them to just be like, "Okay, here you go," would be insane. Like,
Because they came to the 3DS, sorry, with Pokemon Bank sort of connectivity, right? So you could like move your Pokemon all around forever. Whereas now they've got whatever the new Pokemon thing is called, Pokemon Home. If they were to sort of go, look, we're updating Pokemon Home, it's now going to include. I mean, did they even have Pokemon Home to Diamond and Pearl remakes yet? I don't even know if they did that.
not certain.
But they might say, look, we're updating Pokemon Home now. You can bring your Pokemon from Scarlet and Violet, Diamond and Pearl remakes, whatever they were called, and also these new Pokemon Game Boy games, maybe even Game Boy Advance games if they want to talk that much about it. But that will be a pretty massive, like, trading, battling, Pokemon Home. It's all here. You can move your Pokemon around and all that sort of stuff. Would be pretty cool.
It would be about time as well. Like, it feels like these games haven't really been in one place, interconnected with online connectivity ever, really.
Not well. Maybe I think the 3DS probably had it. I think I remember Crystal coming to the 3DS, and I'm pretty sure you.
Yeah,
could
now you
trade.
can't buy that because they've shut down the 3DS eShop. So it's like,
Yeah.
give us a way to play these games again. And I get that you can't bring the DS ones, but you've just given us Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance emulation, so it makes sense to bring those over. If they want to put out like a timeline and drip feed them and do them, 2 at a time kind of thing, then fine. I think people will be okay with that. Maybe red, blue, and yellow comes out in a few months' time, that kind of thing. To keep people coming back, I think that would be okay. But like you said, it feels like a really weird omission from Switch Online, and I think it would be if Pokemon Day is meant to be a celebration of Pokemon, give us something on the day. Like usually, like the last couple of years, it's been, there's a special event happening in Pokemon Go, and it's like, okay, do I really care about that? Like maybe
Or the
but
Pokemon Cafe Mix or whatever that. Called.
Cafe Mix, yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot of those kind of games, the sort of the mobile games. Was it Pokemon Legends? I think is one. No, not Legends. Pokemon X Masters, whatever it's called.
Oh, Pokemon
Yeah.
Masters, yeah. Pokemon Masters EX, yeah.
Yeah. What if they do? What was that? What was the MOBA? Pokemon Unite. Do you reckon they're going to do?
Pokemon Unite has like had no news in ages.
Yeah.
It's about time we got a bit of a refresh on that. Maybe we get like a new season, and they kind of reboot that game because it had a hot minute and then it just kind of fizzled out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think hopefully we'll see an update on Detective Pikachu 2 because that news came out around the same time as the movie, and like that's when the hype was there.
I don't think that game's ever coming, and I don't think the port. I don't think the port of the first game that they also announced is ever coming. I didn't
even remember them announcing a port.
Yeah, okay. they announced that Creatures were going to bring Detective Pikachu from the 3DS to the Switch, and that never came. And I also don't think we're ever getting a Detective Pikachu 2 movie because obviously they've severed that deal, and they've now got the deal with Illumination and Universal. It was a real shame because I loved that movie. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe we'll see more movies? Do you think maybe they'll announce Detective Pikachu 2, or they'll announce?
I could see like an animated Pokemon movie. What do you think, Sierra?
I would like another animated movie. No, I'm not a big fan of like the CGI ones. I like when it's the anime, like it's a rip from like whatever character arc is or story arc is going on in the show. I feel like we're gonna get like a lot of announcements that are just like not related to games. It's just gonna be like Pokemon as like a brand as a whole. I'd love to find out where else I can find those Squishmallows because they keep selling out everywhere.
Yeah. It makes me so mad because I really want one of those Squishmallows.
Yeah, same. Drives me nuts. Yeah, another movie would be sick. I agree.
We've got a list here from Chewy who couldn't be on the show, but he does have his. Where did he give you this list? Was it just something he sent to you, or
it was in Discord? In the Discord chat
was
thing,
it?
right?
Yeah.
I flick. So Chewy wants Pokemon Stadium 3, which I think is.
Did Pokemon Stadium ever come to N64? It did, didn't it?
I think so. Because I think the mini game. My mate was really excited about the mini games. Like I've got a friend who, whenever the direct comes out, he'll watch it adamantly, and then he'll circle the one thing he wants to play, and that was that was. Pokemon Stadium
then if they bring the games to Switch Online, they have to have it so you can like bring them across from the Game Boy game to the N64. That functionality needs.
That would
be
amazing. Imagine if it wasn't.
You could easily see it's
you need
not
a link
be,
cable.
Yeah. Chewy also says Pokemon Conquest 2. I didn't know there was a Pokemon Conquest game. What on
Oh,
earth
he
is that?
keeps talking about this
Yeah,
game. I know
it's a
you have you
tactics
played it,
game.
Sierra?
I did not play it, but it's like a tactics game. So it's like Fire Emblem of Pokemon.
Yeah, Fire Emblem Pokemon.
Oh, okay.
It's a Koei Tecmo game.
Oh, it was a DS game. Oh, it does look like Fire
Mhm.
Emblem. Wow, okay. Yeah, that'll be
To be
interesting. I mean,
honest, I'd
that's
be happy with just Pokemon Conquest, and they just like, like they did with the Advance Wars
mystery.
reboot. Just
I
give
know, like they
us,
did with Mystery Dungeon, I
yeah,
guess.
just like bring that
Yeah.
over and give us that game again. Because I feel like hardly anyone knows about this game. Chewy's the only
Yeah.
person that has ever told me about this game. I don't even know if it came out. Yeah, it did come out everywhere. It came out in 2012. So it must have been towards the end of the DS's life cycle.
Did they ever did they ever add new content for Snap? Snap 2, whatever it was called.
Yeah, we had
Return
like
to
a
Snap.
big
Yeah,
DLC
Pokemon
update.
Snap. Yeah,
Wow.
it got one last year. Last year. Oh my god, last year was 2002. Was it last year that they got that DLC
The year before, I
update?
think, right?
Like the
God.
same year, right?
I
Oh
am
my
so
gosh.
out of the loop with Pokemon now. I don't know what's happened in the last couple. I think since Arceus came out and I hated it, I've just been like meh, and I'm just none of it has had any interest
Well,
in me.
new Pokemon Snap got a big update. I think you're right. It was 2022 that it came out. And it added like a bunch in, and we had like a discussion as to what counts as like an update, what counts as DLC, and like it was enough
Yeah.
content that I think we said it was like a free piece of DLC. I remember having that discussion. But yeah, another game like that would be cool, like or more DLC or more content for Snap would be great.
Yeah.
Like give us
Yeah.
another region of Pokemon.
Right.
Tie it in with the current games.
That
Did it do
game
well?
so beautiful. Did it do well? That is a good question.
My guess would be yeah.
That
It's
game-
Pokemon. It's Pokemon. Pokemon sells games, right? And it's
Yeah,
a
that's what
beloved.
Yeah, I
That's
think
fair.
too.
It was just
All
so
right.
good. Like I was like, I've been getting back into it lately because I never really finished the game. I didn't 100% it by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm like going through the levels. I'm like, this is beautiful. Like Bandai Namco knocked it out of the park. Like the landscapes are gorgeous and highly detailed.
I was very impressed with the trailer of like I was worried it would just look like the current Pokemon game or the Pokemon games at the time, which I still thought were like really ropey. Like the models were nice, but the animations were sort of weren't there, and then the actual landscape wasn't there. And I was like, this is a game about looking at things. There's no way you can argue that it's not about graphics when this is about looking at things and taking pictures of them. But I think they did a really nice job. The lighting's really nice on it. I can see here it sold as of December 2021. It sold 2.4 million copies, and they must have just stopped updating after that because it must have, there was no new milestones to hit. They don't really announce that. That's fair. I think that's fine. When did it come out? It came out in 2021, right?
Yeah, it was like
Yeah,
a June 2021 kind of time, I think.
Okay, so it sort of did 2.5 million by the end of the year. That's fine. I think I can see them wanting to update that or even keep doing it, or do another one. Or the toothbrushing game. They might do another bit of that.
I don't
My
know
teeth
though.
are
oh my
falling out of my head.
god, I forgot about that.
My teeth are falling out of my head.
Yeah,
because
and
all
you
of
can't
you've got all the
sleep as well,
content.
and it's all Pokemon Company's fault. Like, what's
Honestly,
going
I'm
on?
struggling.
I feel like you should
Really
maybe see a doctor and not a Pokemon doctor.
I don't need. I see Professor Oak. He wears a doctor's coat.
Just because he
tells
says
me
doctor does not mean he knows about medicine.
Mr. Mime is very Mr. Gentleman, right? Mr. Rhyme speaks in rhymes. These are all real
Okay.
people with real things, and I have to listen to their advice. That's why I always take a Pikachu whenever I can, Steve.
Mm-hmm. Oh my god.
Well, I have nothing more to say about Pokemon.
Anyway,
because,
moving back to Chewy's list.
Yeah.
He wants a new Legends game, Pokemon Legends Ho-Oh. Do you know what that is, Sierra?
That
Do you
is
know
one
what
of
that
the
is?
legendary birds.
Are you sure, mate?
Meant to symbolize like a phoenix or maybe another mythical bird in Japanese folklore. But on Gold and Silver, it's the gold bird.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Yeah.
shocked that you don't know Ho-Oh, but you'll know some obscure Game Boy game that no one's ever heard of. But you don't know Ho-Oh.
You know, I don't know Pokemon, right? Like my Pokemon stopped at like Pokemon Yellow. That was like the last Pokemon ever that I really played.
But you'd at least know Ho-Oh. Anyway.
No clue
Um,
whatsoever. I can tell you like some of the original Pokemon that were in the anime I watched when I was a child, but that's
don't
like it.
embarrass yourself. Don't embarrass yourself by trying to get all their names wrong. I know. It'll be like one of those. I showed my
There's a
mum the
game that we've
Pokemon and
been
got her to
wanting
guess
to
the
play
name.
forever where you lot show me Pokemon and I've got to guess the name because I have no
Yeah,
I would
idea the
gladly
name
play
of the
that game.
Pokemon.
we gotta just put it on the book. We gotta just do it.
Yeah, I'm very down for that.
Yeah,
Or we
you
can play
lot
the
come
hard
together
mode.
with like the list of Pokemon that you want, and then I'll do
Okay,
it.
we show Steve a picture of a Pokemon, and Steve has to guess what Pokemon it is. We show Pete, or we make Pete listen to the cry of a Pokemon and see if Pete gets more than Steve. Because those cries are like, they all
Yeah,
sound
they're
like,
horrendous, aren't
meow,
they?
They're
meow,
all the
meow,
same to
meow,
me.
beep,
I
beep,
wouldn't be
beep,
able to guess
meow.
them.
Other than when Pikachu actually says Pikachu, which is a
Right,
travesty as far as I know.
exactly.
There's no way I would have looked at this bird and gone, this
It's
bird's
sexist.
called Ho-Oh.
Her name is Sierra.
Like, there's no way. I'd have just been like, this is called Ho-Oh.
Don't know where the name comes from, if I'm being honest. But how was it in like the first episode of the anime? He's the reason Ash goes out and does his thing. He do you remember at the start when Pikachu's been zapped? He zapped himself. I don't know how it works. He got tapped with a Spearow or something. And he's riding him on his bike, and then Ho-Oh flies over, and he sees Ho-Oh, and that's the first legendary he sees that inspires him to never age and go on a 20-year journey.
Yeah, that's the episode where Pikachu hates him and then he decides that he doesn't by the end of the episode because he's like, man, you almost got murdered back there. You're
Yeah,
all
he's
right.
sound. They're like he's a sound guy, and I'm okay with it.
Pikachu's a dick.
Chewy also wants Trading Card Game 2, which, cool, fair, but whatever. But Let's Go Togepi and Pichu, I'm all for a new Let's Go game. I just don't think they're ever happening, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I think at this point, if they haven't done another one for this long, I mean, maybe they'll surprise us next week. I feel like that game solely served to be a transitional game from people who played Go to the Switch, like trying to get people like, look, it's that catching mechanic and
Yeah,
love. You
I
can
think
do
it
it here.
works because I
Yeah.
have friends that bought Switches to play that game. They were even the ones that didn't were like, "Oh, can you please bring the game so I can trade a Pokemon into it and get the box to get my Meltan?" Like Meltan was very specifically. I'm pretty sure you can only still get
Mm,
Meltan by interacting with Home and Go. Like Meltan exists purely to serve a purpose in Go. Um,
yeah.
so I think that if they were going to do a Let's Go Togepi and Pichu, it would have to be something. They want that audience again. It might not have worked as well as they did. I know it sold about 10 million and then it sort of like dropped off.
I mean, that's pretty good.
Like
And
that.
how many
Yeah,
of
that
those
is pretty
stupid
good.
Pokeball controllers did they sell that worked as like
In the
a
box, I think.
Right.
it connected up with the Pokemon Go app as well and acted as
Yeah.
like the thing, and it would light up and count the steps and do all of that stuff.
I have hidden that in my pocket more times than I care to announce. When I'm sort of out just walking around and they're like, "What's Max filling with in his pocket?" And it's the Pokemon Go.
It's great, and then they
ball.
hear the cry of the Pokemon you've got stored in there, and they're
It's
like,
muted. It's very much muted.
Okay.
I don't want any. There's no way anyone's finding out I'm carrying that thing around.
"Why? It's a cool little item. I loved that thing, and
Yeah.
it really is a shame that it got one use, and that was it. That one game,
Right.
and we've never been able to use it again because I really liked the catching mechanic, and I could have easily seen myself using that in Legends, where you're just running
Oh,
around
right.
and you're just throwing these balls at people out in the wild. You could have easily just had like a one-handed, motion and throw the ball.
There's probably loads of things you could do with that. I don't care to think of any right now, but I'm sure next week, if I had a week to think of it, I'll come up with a couple.
Yeah. About the trading card game, I don't know if you guys have ever played the desktop version. Like a lot of pros will stream it and like play decks in the game that they've built in real life because you can carry those codes over.
That's
That's
quite
clever.
cool. It'd be cool to see
Yeah.
that come over to the Switch then, if they've got a desktop
Yeah,
version.
say like I would play the game more because like the trading card game, I was into it very briefly. Like I bought decks, I built decks, I played people. But it's hard to keep up with. But if they could integrate that with the Switch and like come up with like a new version for that would be huge.
I think that the trading card game is famously expensive now.
Yep.
even just like people are trying to buy packs to do things. It's become almost like Magic the Gathering in that it is an expensive hobby. Put something like that on the Switch where there's an audience waiting for Pokemon, maybe even capitalize on like the Marvel Snap sort of hype and make a
Yeah.
different trading card game. Use
I
the
feel like you
Pokemon.
should do that on mobile as well. Then, like, yeah, bring it
Oh
to
yeah,
Switch,
sure.
Mhm.
but make it like Pokemon Snap or Hearthstone, where it comes to mobile, to PC, to Switch, and you can play it everywhere, like
Marvel
Pokemon
Snap,
Unite did.
Yeah.
not Pokemon Snap. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's the
Oh yeah,
beauty
that's
of
right. You can.
that's the beauty of Pokemon as an IP is that because it's not solely owned by Nintendo and they have the freedom to put these spin-off games anywhere they want within reason. You can have games like that that do transition to the Switch, PC, and mobile, and can be much more successful than they need to be. And take people like trading card game, people like Pokemon cards. Pokemon cards are like an iconic part of Pokemon for loads of people. To have you can play Pokemon cards on your phone now, I think that would do amazingly.
Yeah.
And I think CCGs are already in. Slave Spire a couple of years ago. There were loads of card games a couple of years ago. We've even had Marvel's Midnight Suns this year. Um, there's so many of these kind of games that I feel like there's a cash cow there waiting to be had that isn't just physically selling cards, but also a game like this could also boost the card sales.
Yeah.
People go in and buy the cards, they play the game, they're like, oh, maybe I'll start buying cards again, and they realize they can't because they're being bought out by YouTubers to sell for millions. But it's all feeding into that big money pit that we know Pokemon loves. The Pokemon company loves.
It's so funny because I watched a video about the beginnings of Game Freak this morning or on my lunch break, so afternoon. And they actually, like, were so, like, overwhelmed by having to localize Red and Blue for the States, and, like, for all the commotion that happened commercially because, like, they did not think about the success of this game beyond just releasing it on the Game Boy, end of story. Like, because like, English, is actually, it takes up more space on, like, the cartridge than Japanese does, like they didn't there's so many things I didn't think about, such humble beginnings.
I'd like to watch
Yep.
that. I like that story from Gold and Silver Development. That Iwata, they went to Iwata when he was sort of he was some sort of management, and he used to be a developer, and they were like, we cannot get Gold and Silver to fit on this cartridge. You need to help us. So he rewrote so much of the game that he went back to them and said, you have enough space to add the whole of Kanto into this game. So they went and added Kanto into it because he rewrote it in such an efficient way.
So sick.
That's a cool story. What we've spoken about, like, wishes. What do you actually think is going to happen though? DLC, it probably is a yes, but what else is going to be there? Because obviously they've got something to share. Like, how long did they say the presentation was? 20 minutes?
20 minutes, which isn't that
Yeah.
long in terms of like if you think about directs.
Yeah.
No,
It's
it's
only about
not.
Pokemon,
But
so
they
yeah.
usually then will break it up, right? They'll be like, well, and we'll talk more about this in the future, or there'll be a separate Pokemon Presents all about this on X date.
hmm I think DLCs are pretty much a lock-in. They're not going to do remakes yet, and they're not going to do the third game again because with DLC you guarantee people who are waiting for that third game buy a copy of the original game and the DLC at full price.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to double down on that. Yeah,
I
I think
think
I think
for sure DLC. No apology.
yeah,
All
just like
updates on all of the mobile games. All
yeah,
of them.
there'll be a lot of sitting through stuff we don't care about for
Yes.
everyone. There'll be a couple of people that'll be like, "Oh my god, they're adding new cakes into Pokemon Mix or whatever, Cafe Mix or whatever." But one for the cake fans as well. But I don't
Yeah.
think I don't think it's gonna be much more than that
I
for
I
me at
actually
least.
I actually think we probably will see the announcement of a new Pokemon game, because I don't think we're going to get one from Game Freak this year. I think
hmm
we probably are going to just get the DLC, and I think that's probably going to be a theme with Nintendo games this year, is that we're going to get more DLC than we are video games. I think the stuff that's been announced has probably been announced, apart from, I think we're going to get another Pokemon game, which the studio that I got the studio wrong that did Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl was Ilka. They've only developed one other game, which was One Piece Odyssey, which was a PlayStation and
I remember that.
Xbox game that was published by Bandai Namco. So I could easily see that they've been working on another another remake in the same engine as
Like
Brilliant
Black
Diamond,
and
Shining
White,
Pearl.
Gen 5 be an easy win for them, I guess.
Yeah.
I didn't really play Black and White that much, so I would probably buy and play that over
I
anything.
loved it. That was
Oh,
like
really?
the games when I finally started getting back into gaming, period. I jumped in with Black and White, and like that was like the first Pokemon game that I finished.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It was the first Pokemon game I didn't play. Yeah, after Diamond and Pearl, I sort of stopped playing Pokemon and moved on to other things and came back into Pokemon with Sun and Moon, which I think was spurred on
Nice.
by Pokemon Go. Um,
Oh yeah, that was all around that time.
so yeah, I think if they did a Black and White remake, I enjoyed the Diamond and Pearl remake. If I'm being honest, people were like, "Oh, it's just the same. All they've done, blah blah." I really liked Diamond and Pearl, so I really enjoyed going through it again. I really enjoyed getting my what's the best phrase for this? Head caved in by whatever the Cynthia.
Ah
Um,
yeah.
with that, yeah, that was hard, so hard. But I did it, and I was happy with it, and I enjoyed all the underground stuff
Yeah.
again. So yeah, Black and White, a game that I've really only really played recently for a little while. A full remake of that, I probably would actually, especially just having it on the one screen. I'm playing it on Steam Deck, trying to emulate it now. You've really got to talk about two screens. You've really got to type
Oh.
on the touch screen and stuff like that. Like I'd rather just have it all on one thing. So yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's going to be. I think the Game Boy is really the last handheld console they can bring to Switch Online, isn't it? Because of that, like the two screens just makes it too complicated. It worked fine on the Wii U because obviously you had the gamepad and you had it on the TV screen, so you could do the two screen thing. But I do wonder how you're gonna be able to do something like that with the Switch. There's no way you could really do it unless they came up with some kind of solution, but using a second screen like a mobile phone or whatever. But that's just not elegant at all. So I think if we're gonna play those era of games, I think we need the remakes of the DS ones in order to play them moving forwards.
Yeah.
So I think we've covered everything there is to cover this week.
Yeah.
I'm sure if we wanted to scrape the barrel, we could. But I think that's a nice, tidy. How long is that? 15 minutes of show. How exciting for everyone. Um,
I guess we'll
Thank you
find
guys
out
for.
next week then exactly what they did
Yes.
present at Pokemon Presents, and we find
Yeah.
out that everything we said was totally wrong, which is usually what happens.
Honestly, that'd
Ju-
be hilarious, and I welcome it.
It's annoying that just as we start locking in a new schedule for us to start recording and releasing things, they throw in a spanner in the works and
I mean, it's
where
the
we wanted to move.
27th, right? So it's next Monday. So
Yeah.
we should be good to record on our
Is it?
usual Tuesday slot.
Oh.
Yeah.
Then yeah, ignore. Well, yeah, okay, fine, ignore me. Then yeah, I
I
look forward to talking to you
appreciate the
guys about it next
advance
week.
notice, though. I'm glad that they
Because I'm
gave
guessing
us
you're
a
going to want to
week.
be on the show next week, Sierra, right? To discuss all the Pokemon stuff.
Sierra's gonna host it. What do you mean?
Yeah, we might have to see if we can rope in some other big Pokemon fans, because I doubt I'll have much to say.
Maybe we'll take a week off.
Yeah, I might
Maybe
take
we'll
I
just
might
we'll
take a
get
week
Pete.
off. Yeah.
I'm gonna. Yeah.
Or just
let's
let
get Pete,
Sierra rope in the
Sierra.
Pokemon fans. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. AJ can come on, and we can just kick back and have a Tuesday staring at something else. Lovely.
I'll
Well,
hold down
thanks
the
for.
fort. Sorry.
Thanks for listening, guys. How does Pete usually end this? I've been Max. Somewhere over
Well,
there
you
has
got to
been
do the
Steve.
plugs first, Max. If you enjoyed the
Oh, you do
episode,
the
don't forget
plugs,
to check out our website, flipscreen.games. You can find out everywhere we are, including Twitch, sometimes, not lately. We're probably going to be streaming again soon. Discord, the most important place, and also send us emails with questions. I want to get a bank of questions together, questions@flipscreen.games. We've got some good ones coming in, but I want to have like a bit of a mailbag that we can dip into whenever we need a question, and we can like use it as a jumping off point for an episode. So be sure to check that out. But yeah, check out our website, flipscreen.games.
Thank you very much. I've been Max. Someone over there's been Sierra. Someone over there's been Steve. And we'll catch you next week. Ta-da.
Bye.
Ta-da. Ta-ra. Bye. Ta-da.